In the world of art crime, investigators are trained to expect chaos, forced doors, broken glass, panicked alarms. But in 2004, when a Ray Picasso sketch disappeared from a private gallery in Portland, Oregon, there was none of that. No noise, no damage, no trace, just silence and a faint scent of linseed oil floating in the empty room. At first, investigators assumed it was an inside job. The gallery owner was questioned repeatedly. Employees were interviewed, backgrounds checked, bank accounts examined. Nothing. No motive, no suspects, no red flags. But then, over the next several years, more thefts followed. Seattle, Santa Fe, Miami, New York, Chicago. 10 high-value art pieces, all stolen with the same quiet precision. No alarms tripped, no fingerprints, no forced entry, only that same lingering smell, something used by painters to preserve brushes and oil-based pigments. That's when investigators realized they weren't looking at a traditional criminal. They were looking at someone who understood art from the inside, someone who respected it, almost worshipped it. The media eventually gave him a name. The never spoke came from one strange detail that emerged from the few security clips that captured him. On multiple occasions, guards later reported hearing footsteps, soft, steady, but never a voice. In one incident, a guard confronted a figure in the shadows. He yelled commands, demanded answers. The thief remained totally still for 3 seconds, then vanished into darkness without saying a single word. But the truth behind his silence wouldn't be discovered until much later. For 15 years, the thefts continued with surgical accuracy, no violence, no damaged artworks, no ransom notes, just disappearances. Then, in 2019, the case finally cracked. A Baltimore museum upgraded its surveillance system to include thermal imaging. 2 months later, their cameras caught something no one had seen before. A pair of hands illuminated in heat signature, steady, slow-moving, deliberate. Those hands were stained with deep blue and red pigments, embedded into the creases like they had lived there for years. Art crime investigators immediately recognized what that meant. This wasn't a thief who appreciated art. This was a working artist. Days later, the FBI received a call from Margaret Blake, a retired art conservator in Virginia. She claimed she had worked with a young artist in the early 2000s who had those same paint-stained hands, hands impossible to forget. His name was Elias Rowan. Margaret described him as brilliant but emotionally locked away, a man who communicated more through sketches than sentences. She said he often worked for hours in complete silence, sometimes going days without speaking a single word. When the FBI looked deeper, the puzzle pieces began to fall into place. Elias had once been married to a fellow artist, a woman whose private art collection, small but emotionally priceless, was sold off after her sudden death. Financial pressure, medical bills, and legal complications had forced the sale, dispersing her work across private galleries nationwide. And among those sold pieces were the exact items the silent thief had spent 15 years stealing back. The motive, at last, made sense. These weren't random heists. This was reclamation. This was grief in motion. 2 days after the FBI connected Elias to the case, they traced him to an abandoned farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. A multi-agency team converged on the site, expecting a standoff. But when they entered, the house was empty. No thief, no footprints, no signs of struggle, just a single wooden crate placed in the center of the living room. Inside the crate were all 10 stolen artworks, meticulously wrapped, unblemished, protected. And resting on top was an old paintbrush, its bristles coated in the same pigment seen on Elias's hands in the footage. There was no message, no signature, no explanation. Elias Rowan had vanished from the world as quietly as he had entered its databases. The FBI officially considers him a fugitive, though privately, many agents believe he's no longer alive. Others suspect he simply retreated somewhere he could paint without interruption, returning the art only when he believed his story was finally understood. After 20 years of searching, there's still one thing no one can answer. Why did he retain everything, but never surrender himself? Some say it was guilt, others say it was closure. But those who knew him best offer a simpler theory. Elias didn't steal for money. He stole silence, the only language he ever truly spoke. If you find this story interesting, share it to your family and friends for more views.